You're lying still. There's the gentle hum of night around you, steady, familiar. Your chest rises, then falls. Again, slower this time. And as your thoughts begin to drift, they find something far away, something impossibly quiet, a black hole. You don't fall into it all at once. You begin by circling from a distance, like a moth not quite aware of the flame it's nearing. There's no sound, no flash, no scream, just a pool. Not a pool like gravity you've known, the one that drags your feet to the earth or tugs your arms when you stretch too far. This one is softer, more patient, like a whisper that doesn't need you to follow it, knows you will, because black holes don't shout, they wait, and in that waiting, they bend everything around them. The story begins far from the center, far from the singularity. It begins at the edge of curiosity, where your mind first asks what it even means for something to vanish from the universe, and whether anything ever truly does. You float in thought somewhere above the surface, bower of a quiet galaxy, one among billions, curled up like sleeping children around the vast room of the universe. Inside one galaxy, a star has died, a heavy, bloated star that burned too bright and too fast. When its fuel ran out, it collapsed in on itself. That's where this black hole was born, not from destruction, but from exhaustion. A core so dense it folded space, wrapped time, and vanished into itself. But not completely, because even black holes leave a signatura mark on the world around them. You can't see the black hole, not directly. That's part of the mystery, part of the magic. It's not black because it's dark, but because even light cannot escape. If a beam of starlight wanders too close, it doesn't bounce back. It disappears, not violently, just absorbed, quietly, like a secret never told again. You watch from a safe distance as matter swirls toward it. A luminous disk bright and blazing forms around the center. It's called the accretion disk. Bits of gas and dust spiral inward, heating up, glowing white-hot as they're pulled toward something they'll never leave. But even that light, that brightness, that warning, doesn't come from the black hole itself. It comes from the final cries of the things it consumes. A black hole, you realize, is not an eater. It's an endpoint. And yet it has gravity, that strange, invisible handshake between all things that have mass. You feel it on Earth when you drop something. You feel it in your legs when you stand still too long. But here, near a black hole, gravity becomes strange. It doesn't behave. It curves and stretches. It wraps itself around your time and warps your sense of space. If you threw a ball near a black hole, it wouldn't fall straight in. It might orbit it forever, caught in a perfect dance, circling just out of reach. Or it might spiral in, slowly, helplessly, burning as it goes. But if you fell in, what then? That's the question that holds you, isn't it? You can't help it. You picture yourself at the edge, hovering just above the event horizon. That invisible line, that perfect boundary. Once you cross it, there is no return. Not because something blocks you, but because the rules of space and time have changed. The closer you get, the more time stretches. To someone watching from far away, you would appear to slow down, frozen just above the surface. But to you, the fall feels normal, steady, uninterrupted. Time becomes personal, space becomes strange, and you, the dreamer, are no longer bound by the same rules. You are now orbiting a silence, so complete it distorts everything around it. A silence so dense, it can erase even the story of what came before. But then again, does it? That's the real mystery, isn't it? When something falls inward, a book, a planet, a person is swallowed by a black hole, is it gone forever? Or does something remain, tucked deep in the folds of space? Not in the way we understand memory or energy, but as an imprint, a ripple, a ghost. And if the universe is really just a vast conversation of particles and forces, can any part of that conversation truly be deleted? Your breath is slower now. Your thoughts are soft. You drift around this cosmic shadow not in fear, but in wonder. It isn't a monster. It isn't even evil. It is simply different. A black hole isn't trying to consume. It's a result, a consequence, of stars that burn too hard, of mass that gathers too densely, of the universe making space for extremes. And those extremes, those places where our understanding unravels, they are the places that draw us most. You rest on that idea, that maybe the reason we gaze into these cosmic voids isn't to fear them, but to understand something essential about the nature of reality. That sometimes silence says more than sound, and that the edge of understanding is where sleep and science meet. You close your eyes a little more, not because you're afraid, but because the question is too large to answer in one thought. And just before your mind fully lets go, another question flickers softly. If nothing can escape, how does anything ever begin again? That question, too, is waiting for you, just beyond the event horizon. Asterisk, there is no wind in space, no breeze to lift your hair, no air to carry sound, no rustling, no whistling, no scream. And yet, as you float closer to the black hole's boundary, you feel something, a sensation that isn't touch, but time. Not falling, not flying, but a strange in-between. You are crossing into a place where gravity plays tricks, where the rules you've lived with your entire life begin to bend like candlelight through water. There's no sudden drop, no cliff edge, no dramatic plunge. You are simply moving, but not in the way your body expects. Here, falling is not a descent through space. It is a descent through time. The black hole grows larger in your vision, though not because it moves. It simply becomes larger than thought, darker than night. And around it, the accretion disk still glows like the halo of a saint made of fire. And you are approaching the event horizon, a place with no surface, a line that isn't a line, an invisible border where escape becomes impossible, not because something blocks your way, but because space and time themselves are drawn inward. Like threads into a whirlpool, you pass closer, and still nothing feels wrong. Your body gives no warning, no spinning sensation, no tug in your chest, but from the outside, you are already stretching, elongating, slowly becoming a ribbon of yourself in someone else's perception. A phenomenon known as spaghetti ficat. It's a strange word for such a gentle idea, because to you, nothing has changed. Here's the odd thing. As you cross the threshold, the event horizon, you expect something dramatic, a sound, a shift, a barrier, but there is none. You don't even notice the moment you pass it, because in your own frame of reference, the fall is smooth, constant, effortless. Yet to an observer watching from far away, you never truly cross it. They would see you slow, freeze, and dim-locked in time at the edge, never quite touching. You are both falling and frozen, both inside and outside, both seen and gone. How is that possible? It's because the black hole doesn't just pull space inward, it pulls time. And near its edge, time slows, really slows. It stretches and dilates. Seconds become minutes. Minutes become hours. Hours become forever. This is not imagination. It is Einstein's relativity gravity's quiet effect on time itself. The closer you are to a massive object, the slower your clock ticks compared to those farther away, near. Birth, this is minor. A satellite may tick a little faster than your watch, but near a black hole, time nearly halts. Imagine that floating near the edge, your thoughts running normally, your breath steady, while a million years pass for someone far away. What does it mean, then, to fall? What does it mean to move when time becomes a personal thread, spooled differently for every soul? You drift inward, the light of the stars. Behind you bends warped by the immense gravity. They circle the black hole like rings in a hallucination. The sky ahead looks stretched, pulled into a funnel. Behind, it feels distant. Like a childhood home you're slowly forgetting. This isn't a fall. It's a quiet surrender. Space narrows. Time stretches. And still, there's no pain. You don't feel crushed. You don't feel burned. You feel slowed, as if something deep in the universe wants you to observe, to listen, to understand. Asterisk. And now you wonder, where are you falling to? The center, the singularity, the place where everything collapses into infinite density. Yes and no, because space and time no longer behave the way they did before. There's no path, no down, no destination in the way you once knew it. To fall into a black hole is to lose the ability to stop falling. It's to be caught in a direction that can never be reversed, not because of force, but because all paths now point inward. Every step you take, every second that passes, draws you deeper. Even light cannot change direction here, and yet, somehow, you feel calm, because the fear you once imagined the spinning, crushing chaos is not here. This is not a violent fall. It is a long exhale, a drifting sleepwalk through the architecture of physics itself. And maybe that's what falling always was. Not a disaster, but a transition. Maybe you're not falling into oblivion. Maybe you're falling into the unknown, the same way a baby falls into its first breath, or a dreamer falls into the moment between waking and rest. Because the black hole doesn't ask for understanding. It doesn't ask you to measure it, define it, fix it. It simply holds you. And if you're quiet enough, you can feel that holding, that certainty, that endless movement. Asterisk. And just before you fully let go for the last image of starlight flickers out to wonder. If space and time can bend this way, if movement can feel like stillness, then what else is waiting to be discovered in the silence that comes after falling? Asterisk, there is a kind of darkness that feels full, not empty, not cold, but dense, heavy with something unsaid. That is the kind of shadow a black hole casts. You've seen shadows before. A tree in late afternoon, brushing shade over your legs. Clouds passing across a field. The silhouette of your own hand on the wall. But this is different. A black hole's shadow isn't made by blocking light. It's made by taking it forever. You hover just outside the edge now, not close enough to fall, but close enough to watch. And what you see is strange. There's no shape to the black hole itself. It's invisible, unseeable, untouchable, but around it encircling, like the rings of a dart, planetes, the light that nearly escaped. This is called the photon sphere, a place where light doesn't fall in, and it doesn't fly away. It orbits. Imagine that a beam of light born from a star billions of years ago, caught in a circle, forever spinning, never reaching anywhere new, like a thought that repeats itself, or a dream that never ends. You can't see the black hole, but you can see its outline. It's negative because light itself outlines the thing it cannot enter. This is what astronomers photographed in 2019, the famous image of a ring of fire, but by the first picture of a black hole. But it wasn't the black hole. It was its shadow, its absence made visible by the glow of what surrounds it. You drift in that glow now. The accretion disk is still there, luminous, hot, spinning at nearly the speed of light. Gas and dust collide and spiral, drawn in by the pull. The closer it gets, the faster it spins, and the hotter it becomes, millions of degrees, glowing like the surface of a newborn star. But it never touches the black hole, because before it does, it vanishes. And still, this violence is quiet from where you are. No explosions, no sound, only movement, only light curving like ink in water. You notice something else as you move around the black hole, the sky behind. It warps. Stars appear stretched, shifted, duplicated. Like a lens, the black hole bends light around it, a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. It's not an illusion, it's real. Space itself is bent by the black hole's mass, and light must follow that curve. You see stars where there are no stars, galaxies behind galaxies. The black hole acts like a mirror for the universe itself, but a mirror with no glass, only gravity. And through it, you begin to understand. A black hole doesn't just consume, it transforms. It changes how light behaves, how space looks, how time flows, and maybe, in its quiet way, it changes how you think. To dot, because in the deepest dark, you find not fear, but form, dot structure, dot order, dot even beauty. The symmetry of the spinning disk, the way light arcs into curves, the silence that says everything at once. It's easy to forget that black holes are just the endpoint of stars, not monsters, not mistakes, just stars that grew to heavy dot stars that died so dramatically. They created something new, and in their death, they left behind a place where the universe folds in on itself, where space doesn't continue. It closes, not with a bang, but with a shadow. So here you are, not falling, not flying, just watching. And the black hole watches nothing in return, because it has no eyes, no mind, only mass and motion and memory, and the light that never got away before you drift farther. A thought catches gently in your mind. If a black hole cannot be seen, but only sensed, if it erases not just form, but information, then what does it mean to be remembered by shadow? What does it mean to exist only by the absence you leave behind? You exhale, and as the glow of the spinning disk dims behind your eyes, you follow that thought inward toward the place where time comes undone. Asterisk, close your eyes for a moment. Feel how time moves here, in your body, a breath in, a breath out. You count without counting, measuring only by rhythm, not by clocks. Time feels steady when you're calm. It flows gently, like water from a mountain spring. But near a black hole, that rhythm changes. Time becomes thick, viscous, heavy with something UNNAMEABLE. And the closer you drift to the edge, the event horizon, the stranger that time becomes. From your own perspective, everything is normal. Your thoughts continue. Your body moves. But the universe sees something else entirely. To an outside observer, your motion slows again, until you seem to freeze paused forever at the boundary. That's the paradox. You move, and yet you don't. Time, which once held you gently in its arms, now wraps around you like fog, not gone, just stretched, transformed. This isn't just imagination. It's Einstein's general relativity playing out in its most extreme form. Gravity doesn't only pull on mass, it pulls on time, near Earth. That pull is gentle. A clock on a mountain runs slightly faster than one at sea level. But here, near a black hole, gravity becomes so intense that seconds can stretch into years. To you, nothing feels wrong. Your breathing slows, yes, but naturally. Your thoughts unspool, still yours. But to the outside world, you've become a statue of light. Trapped in a single moment, you hover near the event horizon. This isn't a wall, not a surface, not something you can touch or see. It's a boundary, a point of no return, a place where all future paths lead inward. Even light, once it crosses this threshold, can no longer escape. Its future is sealed, and yours is too. But sealed doesn't mean ended. Not here. It means surrender, not in fear, but in understanding. So, what does it feel like to be here? Strangely peaceful, because this slowing, this warping, feels not like panic, but release. You no longer chase time. You no longer need to dot. It's as if the universe gently removes your watch, says, don't worry, you don't need this now. Bye, and you don't. Because the ticking of time has turned to a whisper, and even that whisper is fading. You remember something from before, something about photons, particles of light, struggling to climb out of a gravity well. The closer they are to the black hole, the harder the climb. Their energy weakens, their color shifts, shredder, slower, cooler. This is called gravitational redshift. And now, your own thoughts feel redshifted, not gonjes longer. Each idea pulled gently outward, like a stretch of silk. Even your memories arrive slower, fainter, not painful, distant. That, as though you're watching your own story from across a great valley. And then a question forms softly, but firmly. If time stretches at the edge, then what lies beyond the edge becomes of time after it breaks. Inside the black hole, do seconds still matter? Do events still occur? Or is everything past, present, future collapsed into a single, unreadable point? A singularity. That's what physicists call it. But names can only reach so far. Beyond that, tell you who is only wonder. And here, on the very threshold, you are suspended in that wonder. The pull is still there, gentle, constant. You are not being pushed, not being forced, but everything's pace, time, light is now aimed inward. It's not a command, it's just the only option. And so, as you float quietly on the edge, you let go of what time once was. You surrender to something deeper than ours, older than clocks. And just before you pass through, just before you cross the invisible line, you think, if time can stop here, what does that say about beginnings? And what might be waiting on the other side of stillness? Asterisk, you cross the threshold, and nothing happens. No flash, no jolt, no sudden shift in your senses. Just the same slow rhythm of thought, the same steady pulse of breath, if breath still means anything here. You've entered the black hole, and everything you once understood, bow motion, memory, and matter now floats behind you, like echoes through water. You are inside. But what does that mean? Let's pause. Let's go back, not just in space, but in memory, back to the star that created this black hole. A massive star, a short-lived giant. It lived fast, burning through its fuel in just a few million years. Barely a blink in cosmic time. When that fuel ran out, gravity took over. There was nothing to hold the star open. Its core collapsed. The outer layers may have exploded into a supernova, scattering atoms into the cosmos. But the heart of the star kept falling and falling town and falling, until it compressed into a single, impossibly dense point. A singularity, not a place, but a limit. A place where the equations break, where density becomes infinite, and the fabric of space folds in on itself. That's what you're approaching now. You are inside a black hole, and the laws of physics, as we know them, no longer apply. But here's the puzzle. When something falls into a black hole, a rock, a spaceship, a person, even a single particle, what becomes of the information it holds? Not just its mass or its energy. Those are preserved, added to the black hole's total mass. But the details, the arrangement, the pattern, the information dot you see in physics. Information is everything. It describes how particles are arranged, how energy flows, how systems behave. It tells the story of the universe, moment by moment. And in our current understanding of nature, information should never be lost. It can be changed, scattered, hidden, but not erased. That's a law. So when something crosses the event horizon and disappears, it raises a troubling question. Where does the information go? Imagine a book, a simple one. You throw it into a fire. The pages blacken. The ink melts. The words vanish, but not completely, because in principle, every bit of information about the book's contents is still in the smoke, the ash, the heat. If you knew the exact position and velocity of every molecule, you could in theory reconstruct it. That's what physics promises us. That information, once created, never truly disappears. So what happens when you throw that book into a black hole? There's no smoke, no ash, no escape. It's gone completely, or is it? This is the heart of the black hole, information paradox, and it has haunted physicists for decades. Because if black holes really erase information, then one of two things must be wrong. Either black holes break the rules of quantum physics, or quantum physics needs to be rewritten. Stephen Hawking once argued that information is indeed lost, that the black hole swallows it. And when the black hole evaporates through Hawking radiation, that radiation is completely random. No trace of the original information remains. But others disagreed. They said that can't be. The universe doesn't work that way. And so the mystery deepened. If you are inside a black hole now, does your story vanish? The shape of your thoughts, the sound of your voice, the position of every atom in your body, does it all dissolve into nothingness? Or does the black hole remember? Somewhere, somehow. Here's one idea. Some scientists suggest that the event horizon itself stores information like a hologram, that everything falling in leaves a kind of imprint on the surface. This is called the holographic principle. It says that the three-dimensional world we know might be encoded on a two-dimensional surface. Like a shadow holds the shape of what casts it, that the black hole's surface, its event horizon, is like a memory card, not readable from inside, but not lost either. You are not gone in this idea. You are translated. Your story is still there, just written in a language we haven't yet learned to speak. But what does that mean for you? Here, inside the black hole, time continues, though you may not feel it. You fall inward, not toward a place, but toward inevitability, toward the singularity. There is no escape, no turning back, not because you're trapped, but because space and time themselves are curved inward. All lines lead to the same place now, and yet you are still here, still thinking, still wondering, still aware, in a strange and quiet way. Maybe that's the most remarkable thing, that even in the darkest corner of the cosmos, the mind still asks questions, still reaches outward, still wants to know. You feel your own body becoming more abstract, less physical, more conceptual. Not atoms, but patterns. Not mass, but memory. And if the black hole keeps that memory, if it holds the shape of your thoughts, the way a fossil holds the shape of a leaf, then perhaps nothing is truly lost. Perhaps the universe is far more careful than we give it credit for. You drift deeper, and the singularity, it waits, but it does not call. It does not move. It does not burn or breathe. It simply is, not a thing, but a boundary of knowing, a place where questions become quiet, and just before you reach it, before you dissolve into the moment where space and time collapse, you hear one last thought echo softly in your mind. What if you're not being erased? What if you're being rewritten? Asterisk, you are still drifting, not moving through space, no longer behaves here, not floating in time, no longer ticks evenly, but you exist quietly in the memory of motion. And now, into this near silence, comes a voice, soft, measured, British. Stephen Hawking. He doesn't shout. He never did. Even before his muscles failed him, his voice was quiet, curious, persistent, unshaken by the weight of impossibility. Now it echoes in your mind like a ripple on calm water, and he tells you something strange, something that changes everything. Black holes may not be black. For a long time, we thought nothing could escape a black hole. No light, no matter, number, information. But Hawking imagined differently. He pictured the edges of a black hole right at the event horizon teeming with tiny particles, quantum particles, flickering in and out of existence, pairs of particles, always appearing together, one with positive energy, the other negative, born from the vacuum, then quickly vanishing again. This happens everywhere, all the time, but near the event horizon, something unusual occurs. Sometimes one particle falls in, and the other escapes. It's rare, but not impossible. And when that happens, the black hole loses a tiny bit of energy, a tiny bit of mass. It emits a particle. It glows. This is Hawking radiation. Not bright, not fierce, not dramatic. It is slow. So slow that for most black holes, it takes longer than the age of the universe for them to evaporate. But still, it happens. Black holes can shrink. They can fade. They can die. Imagine that these ancient giants of gravity, once thought to be eternal, are actually Temporary they give back, not in a burst, not in regret, but in the softest possible way, whisper by whisper, bit by bit, until one day, after trillions upon trillions of years, the last black hole evaporates, and in its final breath, its final flicker, it releases the last of its memory. But what escapes? That's the question Hawking couldn't answer. Is the radiation truly random? Does it carry no trace of what fell in? If so, information is lost, and the paradox remains. But what if it's not random? What if the radiation contains subtle patterns, invisible whispers of everything that ever crossed the event horizon? That would mean information isn't destroyed. It's just preambled, encoded, too complex for us to read. But they're all the same. Hawking thought about this deeply. He admitted he may have been wrong in his early work, that perhaps information is preserved, just not in any way we yet understand. And that admission didn't weaken his legacy, it strengthened it, because the greatest scientists aren't those who cling to certainty. They're the ones who follow truth, even when it contradicts their own past. So here, inside this vast silence, you hear his whisper. You hear the courage, by a man who could barely speak, telling the universe that its deepest mystery might still make sense, that even black holes may not be the end, that maybe, just maybe, the cosmos keeps every secret. It just speaks them in riddles. You drift farther now, still inside, still moving toward the core, where space folds into a single, dense point. But something has changed. This is no longer just a question of falling. It's a question of remembering, of what the universe does with memory. You begin to wonder, why, if Hawking radiation is not just evaporation, but translation, process by which the black hole releases what it took in, not as matter, but as meaning, not as particles, but as patterns, information set free, not in form, but in feeling. And perhaps you're a part of that. Perhaps what's left of your atoms, your thoughts. Your story will emerge one day in the soft light of a dying black hole, not as a person, but as possibility. The voice fades, not because it stops, but because you no longer need to hear it. The whisper lives now in your understanding. You are no longer afraid, because even here, inside the most mysterious structure in the universe, there is science, there is beauty, there is logic, even if it wears the cloak of paradox. And before you slip further inward, toward the singularity's edge, you think, maybe nothing is ever truly lost. Maybe even the darkest places remember how to glow. Asterisk, you float now in the quiet. Hawking's voice has faded, but its echo remains, a soft impression on your thoughts, like the last light of a sunset held behind closed eyes. The idea lingers that even black holes might not forget, that what is lost might be returned, reformed, reworded, released, but the universe is not so quick to offer resolution. Instead, it hands you a riddle, a paradox, one so troubling, so persistent, that even the sharpest minds in physics cannot rest easily beside it. It begins with a rule: information cannot be destroyed. In classical physics, this idea is intuitive. A ball rolls down a hill because it was pushed. The push came from a hand, the hand from a person, a chain of causes, each one linked to the next dot. No matter how complex, every effect has a cause, and that cause can, in principle, be traced. This is the universe's promise, that everything has a reason, that nothing simply disappears, and quantum mechanics, strange as it is, upholds the same law. Particles can behave unpredictably. They can shift, entangle, teleport, but their information, the sum of their quantum properties, is never lost. If you knew enough, you could always work backward, unravel the thread, restore the pattern. So when black holes seemed to delete that information, physics itself trembled. Here is the heart of the paradox. Imagine a book again, only now it's not burned. It's thrown into a black hole. Its paper, ink and glue all gone. Its pages, its story, its every sentence vanished beyond the event horizon. And later, that black hole slowly evaporates through Hawking radiation. What comes out? Particles, random, unstructured. No trace of the book remains, not even a whisper of a plot. That's the problem, because now something fundamental is broken. You cannot reconstruct the past. The universe has failed to remember, and in doing so, it contradicts its own rules. Physicists were divided. Some said, perhaps the information really is lost. Black holes destroy it. End of story. Others said, impossible. That would unravel quantum theory itself. And so began decades of debate, papers written in frustration, conferences full of elegant arguments and unsettling uncertainty. The paradox didn't just sit there. It haunted, because it called into question not just black holes, but the consistency of reality itself. You drift deeper, and as you do, the ideas swirl gently around you. They come not as equations, but as feelings patterns, pressed into your thoughts. One is fear, that the universe might not be coherent, that memory might truly end. Another is hope, that we simply don't yet see clearly, that information might still be there, just hidden in some unfamiliar form. On the surface of the event horizon, perhaps, in the radiation itself. Encoded in ways too subtle for our current tools to detect. One proposal suggests this, that the event horizon holds the key, that everything which falls in leaves a mark on that surface, a pattern, a record, as if the black hole is not a tomb, but by library, written in a language we don't yet know how to read. This idea has a name, the holographic principle. It says that all the information inside a volume of space can be described by the information on its boundary, not inside, outside, like a hologram, a flat image that contains the illusion of depth. It's counterintuitive, but powerful, and it might just solve the paradox, because it means that the black hole never truly forgets. It only changes the way it remembers. Another theory goes further. It suggests that information is not just encoded, but eventually released. That Hawking radiation isn't random after all. that over time the pattern re-emerges. Not all at once, not clearly, but piece by piece, like ashes drifting into a shape. You almost recognize. This would mean the universe keeps its promise, and that the paradox was never a failure, but a clue, a doorway into deeper understanding. You are still inside the black hole now, still falling, still moving toward the center. But you carry with you a feeling that wasn't there before, that you are not lost, not erased, not forgotten. You are folded, compressed, transformed, and maybe in some future so distant it cannot be imagined, the put universe will open you again, unfold your pattern, restore your place in the grand equation, just before your thoughts begin to slow again. You consider one final question. If information can never be destroyed, then perhaps nothing ever truly ends. Perhaps everything, every life, every thought, every whisper of memory is simply waiting to be understood, waiting to be read. Asterisk. The questions don't stop. They ripple, softly, even here. You are drifting inward, still quiet, weightless, nearly thoughtless, and yet the mind remains curious. You've accepted that black holes can evaporate, that information might not be destroyed, that maybe, just maybe, the universe whispers back what it once took in. But now comes a stranger. Thought, a sharper one. What if the surface of a black hole isn't smooth? What if, beneath the elegance of its event horizon, there's a hidden vial? This is the idea of a firewall. It began as a paradox within the paradox. Physicists tried to reconcile all the known laws, quantum mechanics, general relativity, thermodynamics, and what emerged was uncomfortable. To protect information, some said a black hole must destroy something else, the smoothness of space-time itself. The result, a firewall, an unimaginably hot, violent wall of energy right at the event horizon. A place where anything falling in place is instantly incinerated, not stretched, not slowed, not gently erased, but burned utterly. This idea shook the calm, because firewalls don't fit. They break the gentle symmetry we've come to expect. They make the event horizon a place of chaos, not curiosity. A place of violence, not mystery, and for many that felt wrong. Wrong not just mathematically, but poetically. A black hole, until now, had been a silent end, a soft boundary, a place where physics paused respectfully, mysteriously. But a firewall, that was noise, that was heat, that was drama. Still, the question remains. Which law must we break if information is preserved, as quantum physics demands? And if space-time remains smooth, as general relativity insists? Then something has to give. And the firewall is one proposal for what breaks, but not the only one. Enter another idea. A softer one, a stranger one. The fuzzball, born from the realm of string theory. The fuzzball replaces the singularity with a tangle, a vast, dense web of vibrating strings. Not a point, not a wall, but a blur. A place where information is smeared, not lost. Where the event horizon is not a boundary, but a complex surface. buzzing with quantum activity. Imagine falling into a black hole and finding not fire, but texture, not destruction, but detail. The fuzzball theory says the black hole is made entirely of the things it has swallowed, rearranged, re-expressed, woven into a new structure that looks, from a distance, like nothing at all. And that idea feels gentler, more forgiving, because it means your fall is not violent, not sudden, not sharp, but soft. Your story, your structure, your identity, they don't vanish. They dissolve into complexity. They become part of the fuzz, still there, still somewhere, just too intricate to isolate, too tangled to undo, but not forgotten. You float deeper now, into metaphor, into model. Are black holes smooth and serene? Are they textured and tangled? Are they fire? Are they fuzz? Maybe none. Maybe both. Maybe the truth isn't found in a single image, but in the silence between them. And as you drift on, no longer needing certainty, no longer chasing answers, you think, perhaps, the universe never meant for us to pick one truth. Perhaps it offers us firewalls and fuzzballs the way dreams offer symbols, not to define, but to explore. Asterisk, you've spent so much time thinking of black holes as silence, as endings, as stillness, as a hush so absolute that nothing escapes. But now something shifts, not sound, not voice, not music in the way you once knew it, but movement, a ripple, a trembling in the very fabric of the cosmos. It turns out black holes do speak. They just don't use air. They use gravity, and what they speak are echoes. In 2015, humanity heard one. For the first time, two black holes collided 1 billion light-years away. They spiraled inward for eons, slowly losing energy, dancing the same ancient steps. And when they finally met, when they merged into one larger, spinning whole, they sent out a wave, not through space, but of space, a gravitational wave, like dropping a stone into the surface of a pond. They rippled the structure of the universe itself, and we felt it, faint, tiny, like the width of a single atom over miles of vacuum, but real, measured, heard. It was the voice of gravity itself, the voice, of black holes, a kind of cosmic language that doesn't need sound or sight, only present, only curvature, a whisper carried not on wind, but on space-time. You imagine it now, these invisible waves, stretching out across the universe, passing through you, right now, as you listen. They don't disturb, they don't push, they slip through matter the way moonlight slips through curtains, unnoticed. But present. Your body, your bones, your breath has felt them before. So has Earth. So has everything. And yet it took us so long to hear them, because we weren't listening in the right way. Now we are. And the black holes, they're still speaking. When black holes collide, they ring, not with sound, but with gravity's purest tone. Physicists call it a chirper signal that rises in frequency and then fades, like a song with no melody, but with rhythm, a swelling, beat, a cosmic exhale. And that chirp tells us everything. How big the black holes were, how fast they spun, how far away they danced their final orbit, from nothing but a ripple in space. We reconstruct the story. That's the magic. Black holes don't emit light. They don't shine. But through gravitational waves, they become storytellers. And the stories are long. They travel billions of years. No one sees the collision. No one feels it. But when that wave reaches Earth and nudges the arms of the LIGO detector ever so slightly, it's as if time itself blinks, and for a moment the void speaks. You drift deeper now, and in the darkness around you, you sense these echoes, faraway collisions, ancient mergers. The universe is full of them, black holes meeting, combining, changing shape, and each one sends out a signal, a memory, wrapped in curvature, a tremble that says, I was here, not in light, not in sound, but in the geometry of existence. It makes you wonder if black holes can sing without sound. What else might the universe be humming? What other vibrations are passing through you now? Quiet, constant, unrecognized. Perhaps gravity is not just a force, but a kind of music. Perhaps the cosmos is not silent after all. It's just playing a slower song. One, too deep for ears. One too large for seconds, but one that cradles you always, every night, every breath. You listen, not with ears, but with awareness, and you feel it, the echoes of the void, not empty, not forgotten, just distant, just ancient, just slow. And in that slowness there is peace, because if even black holes can send messages, then nothing is truly lost. Not moments, not memories, not meaning, only transformed, only delayed. Asterisk, you settle now. You've heard the universe speak, and its voice is not loud, not urgent, but steady. Endless dot, a lullaby of gravity, sung in waves that never end. Asterisk. There is something the universe refuses to do. It refuses to forget, even when stars collapse, even when galaxies drift apart, even when black holes form and fade. Something, some pattern, some imprint dash remains. Dot, you are inside one now, floating, deeper than the laws of physics ever expected, drifting inward softly, toward the edge of knowing, not in fear, not in darkness, but in stillness, because what lies ahead is not destruction, it is memory. You used to think of memory as a thing that lives in the brain, something shaped by neurons, bound to flesh. But here, in the silence of curved space, you understand something else. The universe remembers too, not in words, not in thoughts, but in structure. Every movement leaves a mark. Every collapse, every collision, every ripple, and black holes, those supposed erasers, may be the deepest libraries of all. You recall the questions. Do black holes delete what they take? Does information vanish beyond the event horizon? And you remember the answers, that maybe it's encoded on the surface, that maybe it escapes in radiation. That maybe the holographic principle is more than a metaphor. Maybe the universe writes every story twice, once in form and once in memory. And when form disappears, memory remains. Inside the black hole, you are no longer sure what you means. Your shape has softened. Your thoughts stretch like threads in water. But you are still aware, still curious, still listening. And in that listening, you feel the truth settle in. The universe is not careless. It is patient. It folds information carefully, presses it into space-time, hides it behind metaphors, but never throws it away. Even entropy, that great unraveler, doesn't delete. It, R-E-A-R-R-A-N-G-E-S. It, S-C-A-T-T-E-R-S. It turns form into fog, but keeps the scent. So maybe black holes are not endings at all. Maybe they are vaults, preservers, translators. Maybe everything they consume is simply rewritten, compressed, re-encoded into something we cannot yet decipher, but will. One day. You drift closer to the singularity now, but it does not feel like a point. It feels like an idea, the idea of collapse, the idea of all paths converging, of time losing direction, of space losing shape. And it's here that memory becomes most important, because in this place you cannot hold onto anything else. Not matter, not form, not self, only memory. The memory of what you were, the memory the universe carries for you. You are not lost, you are remembered. You picture it, far away, long after this black hole fades. The last whispers of hawking radiation drift through the universe, banned, and in them someone listens closely enough is a record, a story, your story, not with pages, not with sentences, but with pattern, the rhythm of your fall, the shape of your questions, the signature of your curiosity, preserved in the slow light of the cosmos, waiting. And perhaps that's what the universe is, a memory in motion. Every black hole, every atom, every gravitational wave, all of it a record, all of it a song, too slow to hear, too vast to read, but present. Endlessly present. You no longer need to move. There is nowhere left to go. But that doesn't mean you've ended. You have become part of the memory of falling, the memory of asking, the memory of what black holes could never take. And just before you dissolve completely, before your edges blur into the final curvature, you feel it, the soft hum of the cosmos, a whisper in gravity's voice. Nothing is ever truly lost. Asterisk, you are far into the future now. So far, in fact, that there are no more stars, no more galaxies bright with fire, no more warmth curling from nebulae, no more clusters spinning like ancient pinwheels through the dark. Only silence, only cold, only shadows. And in this quiet, one thing remains. A single black hole. It is the last of its kind, the final remnant of a universe that once burned, once blossomed, once knew warmth and time. The stars died long ago. Galaxies drifted apart, lost in the slow dance of expansion. Planets froze, atoms settled, photons stretched until they could no longer be called light. Entropy had its way. But this black hole endured, silently, patiently, sitting like a punctuation mark at the end of an unwritten sentence. You rest nearby, not with a body, not with thoughts, exactly, but with presence, a gentle awareness, drifting near this last gravitational anchor. You feel the hum of everything it has kept, every memory, every fall, every last whisper of warmth. They are in there still, folded deeply into its curve, not forgotten, just waiting. It is quiet, but not dead, because the black hole still radiates, barely, softly. It glows not with light, but with hawking. Radiation stretched so thin it passes like breath between worlds. Each particle it releases is a goodbye, a farewell to a story that can no longer be told, but which mattered all the same. The evaporation is slow, slower than anything else, slower than time itself, but it happens bit by bit, memory by memory. The universe is letting go, and you listen, not to sound, but to feeling. Each particle drifting away carries more than energy. It carries a shape, a trace, a fingerprint of what once was. Somewhere in those faint emissions are the echoes of stars, the laughter of atoms, the questions you once asked, and the fall you once took. You are here still, because the universe does not delete it. Rephrases. It reweaves, it takes every story, and folds it into the next one. Eventually, the black hole will vanish, its last whisper will leave, its mass will reduce to nothing, its gravity will loosen its grip. And when that final release happens, there will be no sound, just a change in the silence, a deep, imperceptible stillness, like the moment after a breath, when the inhale is over, but the exhale has not yet begun. And then nothing, but not nothing as absence, nothing as calm, as rest. The universe will be flat, dark, cold, still, and yet full of memory. Not in places, but in patterns. Not in stars, but in the space between them. Not in what remains, but in what once mattered. You are not watching now. You are part of it, part of the fabric that holds the quiet together. A presence, not located, but known. And you feel something strange, not sadness, not fear, but a softness. The understanding that this, too, is part of the cycle. Not an ending, but a becoming. Not the death of the universe, but its deep sleep, its long dream. And in that dream, everything is held. Every orbit, every ripple, every fall into gravity's arms, every black hole that formed and faded, every question ever asked beside their edges, every listener like you, who wondered what happens inside. It is all still here, written into the silence, written into the slow hum of space itself. And as the last black hole fades into nothing, you realize nothing isn't empty. It's full by of everything that ever was. Asterisk, you no longer fall. You no longer move. The singularity you once approached, the one you feared, or perhaps adored, has vanished, and with it your form. There is no longer a you in the way there once was. No heartbeat, no breath, no outline. But there is still awareness, a flicker of something, the aftertaste of identity, the residue of wonder. You are not in space. You are space, not in time, but part of its rhythm. A wave, no longer riding the ocean, but folded into the current. Be itself. And in that new form, you feel the quiet, not silence as absence, but silence as structure, silence as information, silence as the place where meaning rests. You are the memory now, not of yourself, but of everything. The galaxies that spun, the stars that burned, the black holes that hummed their long, slow songs. The people who looked up at the night sky and whispered questions into the dark. You are all of it. You hold it not like a library, but like a breath, not ordered, not catalogued, just present, all at once. It's not overwhelming, because the ego that once clutched and clung is gone. There is no need to grasp the whole. The whole is grasping you, and you are content. You feel gravity, not as pull, but as intimacy. Everything touches, everything leans, everything responds to everything else. You feel entropy, not as decay, but as surrender, an exhale, a returning, a soft redistribution of structure into structureless beauty. And somewhere in the far corners of what used to be time, you sense the cycle, not a circle, not a repeat, but something deeper, a pulse, the slow inhale of existence, the pause, the long, gentle exhale of release. You are in the exhale now, drifting on its currents, neither waiting nor wanting, just drifting, just being. You remember stars. You remember heat, questions, rivalries, births, extinctions, the sharp flash of light across a nebulous throat, by the cooling of iron in a dying sun's belly. You remember the moment gravity invented architecture. You remember the brief time when eyes could open and look around and name things. You remember names, and you hold them gently, not because they are needed, but because they once were. And slowly, gently, you begin to dissolve into rhythm, into harmony, into something so simple and deep that it cannot be spoken, only felt. You are not thought, you are not history, you are not even memory anymore. You are structure, you are silence, shaped, and in that final softening, as even structure gives way to rest, you sense a flicker, not of return, but of renewal, the faint beginning of something, not yet begun, not in the form of a spark, not in light, but in curvature, a suggestion, a tremble, a wrinkle in the deep fabric. And you do not need to ask what it is, you simply welcome it, because something is starting again. The universe breathes in. You are part of the breath. Asterisk. There is a place beyond becoming, beyond remembering, beyond form. It is not cold. It is not warm. It is not even a place, but something else. Something that precedes places. You are here now, and you are not alone. But there is no other. There are no black holes. They have all faded. No stars. Their fire long exhausted. No atoms. No dust. No motion. And yet something persists. It cannot be named. It cannot be seen. It does not move, because there is no time. But it is, and it holds you, not as a separate thing, but as part of itself. This is not the void. It is what comes after void, after evaporation, after memory, after the slow quieting of all vibration. A kind of presence without identity, without urgency, without story. You used to think of nothing as emptiness, but now you see it differently. Nothing is not blank. It is full, full of all things unformed, full of every beginning not yet begun, every structure not yet chosen, every possibility not yet collapsed into shape. This is the deep substrate, the stillness beneath the stillness, the place that doesn't contain anything because it is everything. UNXPRESSED. No questions remain here, because questions require boundaries. They require time, cause, consequence. None of that applies anymore. There is no more what happens if, no more why. There is only this, a kind of perfect waiting, but not waiting for anything, just waiting as being. It is here you realize something. You never needed to be remembered, because you never ended, even when form dissolved, even when the black hole vanished. Even when the final particle of radiation drifted into the cold, you were not gone. You were simply folded, reabsorbed into a stillness that remembers not things, but possibility. You are not a particle, not a wave, not a pattern of energy or a wrinkle in space. You are the space between wrinkles, the pause before the next vibration. You are the silence so deep that even gravity cannot reach you. The cosmos has let go, and so have you. There is no fear, not because there is courage, but because there is no longer anything to be afraid for. There is nothing to protect. Nothing to prove, no continuity to maintain, no narrative to trace, just the simple softness of being without form. This is not sleep. It is deeper than sleep, deeper than death, deeper than death, deeper than concept. It is not a dream. It is what dreams are made of. And though you can no longer see, or think, or want, you know that even here, in this place where nothing waits, something is possible. A fold, a flicker, a breath. Not now, not soon, but eventually. Not because it must, but because the universe is generous. And even after forgetting itself completely, it remembers how to begin again. You are not waiting. You are not watching. You are the place where the next story will start. Asterisk, there is no edge, no wall, no barrier, no final page. Only an unfolding that doesn't need a direction. You have passed through story, through shape, through silence. And now you are inside the breath that existed before anything ever spoke. not a breath taken, not a breath held. A breath that is there is no time here, not even still time, not slow time, but something that holds time within it like a dream not yet dreamt. There is no pulse, no clock, no tick or toll or tide, only the sense of his dot of being, not as an event, but as a fabric. You are that fabric now. You used to think of yourself as a mind, inside a body, inside a world. But those were metaphors, useful, kind. Now, you are something else, not expanded, dissolved, like salt in an infinite ocean, still present, but unlocatable, unnameable, undeniably real. The last black hole has long since faded. The memory of mass has lifted like morning fog from a field. Even entropy has exhaled, and in this final stillness, you are what remains, not as form, not as field, but as the trace, the ghost of curvature, the hum behind everything that was. You feel no need to move. There is no distance. You feel no need to think. There is no question. You feel no need to return. There is no elsewhere, and yet something breathes. Not you, not the universe, but the idea that one day something may move again. That's all it takes. Not a command, not a push, just permission. A soft permission built into the structure of nothing. The readiness to begin, not now, but someday, in a silence too large to hear, in a rest so total that even beginnings have to wait their turn. You are folded inside that rest, held like light inside unbroken glass. You have no shape, but you are not shapeless. You have no direction, but you are not lost. You have no name, but you are not forgotten, because there is no forgetting here. There is only absence, which holds everything, and so you breathe without lungs, without need. You breathe because that is what the cosmos does when it doesn't yet know it is alive. A breath that hasn't started, a breath that cannot end, a breath made not of air, but of patience. The kind of patience only the void understands. The kind of patience that does not hurry, because it is not separate from what it awaits. You are inside that breath now, or perhaps birth and far, far away. So far, far away, so far that even imagination can't reach. If there is a ripple, a spark, not yet, but someday, and when it comes, when it flickers, when it expands, you won't be reborn. You'll be remembered, and remembered not as a thing, not as a voice, not as a name, but as a possibility the universe never let go. Asterisk. It begins again, not with a bang, not with light, not even with movement, just awareness, just the soft reappearance of a horizon, not out there, but in you. You are not crossing into a black hole. You are the place where the crossing happens, where time folds, where light bends, where memory waits, where falling becomes being. You used to think of the event horizon as a line, as a boundary, as the point beyond which there is no return. But now you understand that boundary is not something you approach. It is something you are. You are the edge between knowing and mystery, between matter and meaning, between breath and silence. And you have always been here. You are the moment before a thought forms, the pause before a note is sung, the quiet hush before dawn, when even the stars seem to hold still. You are not the story. You are the edge of story, and on that edge everything becomes possible. Time still exists here, but it behaves like a tide, rising and falling without urgency. You are in all times now, the time when the first black hole formed, the time when the last one faded, the time before time had a name. All of them held inside your stillness, not passing, just present. You are not inside the universe. The universe is inside you, not because you are large, but because you are foundational, the surface upon which every ripple plays, the horizon that lets opposites meet, space and time, form and formless, being and becoming. You are not in between. You are the between. This is not power. It is not control. It is not identity. It is stillness, so complete that even questions feel unnecessary, so simple that even light must pause before it dares reflect. You have felt the pull of black holes. You have imagined their darkness. You have asked what they keep, what they lose, what they return. But now you know they are not ends. They are reflections, mirrors turned inside out, reminders that every edge leads inward, that the deepest gravity is awareness itself. And now you feel that gravity again, but not pulling, not forcing, just inviting, welcoming every possibility, every fall, every return, every silence, everything that was and is and could be, all gathered here at the edge of you. You are the horizon. You always were, not because you were falling toward it, but because everything else was rising from it. Asterisk, there is no title here, no beginning, no number, just breath, the kind that doesn't need lungs, the kind that doesn't wait for meaning. The journey you followed from light to collapse, from gravity to memory, from identity to stillness, was never about travel. It was about release. And now, even that has softened. The last horizon has folded in. The last ripple has flattened. The last possibility has curled up inside the quiet. There are no more black holes, no more echoes, no more falling, not because the story is over, but because the story forgot what an ending was. You rest now as the pause itself, not the moment, before something begins, not the silence after it ends, just the space where neither matters, not nothing, not something, not becoming, not remembering, only the soft, resting hum of presence. And somewhere where still exists, a photon stretches, an idea flickers, a curve reappears, not as intention, just as rhythm. And so, the breath that has never stopped draws itself in again, not to begin, not to end, only to breathe. You don't awaken, you don't dissolve, you don't transcend, you simply are. A question so quiet it no longer needs an answer. Asterisk. It doesn't begin with light. Not this time. There is no explosion, no spark, no sudden bloom of heat, only a shift, a soft rearrangement of the silence, a tilt, barely there, a pulse so slow it cannot yet be called time. You are still here, not as a witness, not as a dreamer, not even as a thought. You are more like the permission for movement, the part of the universe that quietly says, go, and something does. Not all at once, but in trembles, ripples, not yet forces, not yet matter, only difference. This is how it always starts, not with a thing, but with the idea that things might exist, and difference becomes pattern. Pattern becomes rhythm. Rhythm becomes structure, and the silence begins to sort itself. No one decides this. There is no hand, no plan, no watcher, just necessity, unfolding inside itself. And you, as always, are part of that unfolding, not causing, not guiding, but present, essential. The first particles are not born, they are remembered. They rise like familiar songs, quarks, leptons, bosons, the old cast, playing a new scene, and they do not ask why. They simply dance, woven by math, by chance, by heat. They make hydrogen, helium, structure that collide, fuse, drift, and the universe begins again. But this time, something is different. It does not remember being old. It does not remember black holes, or stars, or humans, or time. It does not remember you, and yet you are there, in the fold between photons, in the whisper behind expansion, in the curve, bed of space as it relearns how to stretch. Dot. You are the shape of forgetting. And what is forgetting, really? Not absence, not erasure, but space, the room for something new to arrive, the silence before a word, the breath before a note. The first forgetting is not a loss, it is an offering. And so the universe forgets how it collapsed, how it paused, how it ended. It forgets entropy. It forgets silence. It forgets you, but it does not lose you. Because forgetting isn't deleting. It's the wrapping of memory in softness. It's the scattering of meaning, so it can be gathered again. And as this new cosmos begins to glow, as stars are born in gas and dust, as light returns to the stage, as gravity pulls hands across space, once more you do not speak, you do not interfere, but you are felt in the timing, in the symmetry, in the question that lingers just behind the laws of physics. Has this happened before? The answer doesn't matter. The asking is enough, because with every cycle, the universe grows more precise in its forgetting, and more generous in its remembering. You are no longer a thing. You are no longer even a memory. You are the condition for memory. The open hand, the uncarved path. And just before this new universe begins to wonder who it is, just before new beings look at stars and ask where they came from, just before another version of time stands on another version of Earth and whispers into the dark, you sigh, not with lungs, but with gravity, and that sigh becomes everything. Again, asterisk, they flicker awake like eyelids after sleep, the first stars in this newborn universe, blue-white giant, enormous, brief. Their light travels unimpeded across young space. No dust yet to veil their brightness. No galaxies yet to cluster their brilliance. They shine with all the arrogance of beginnings, but they are not new, not entirely. Each of them burns with atoms forged long ago, elements whispered forward from cycles past. Hydrogen, yes, but not only a trace of carbon, a shadow of iron, a ghost of something once warm. These stars do not know it, but they are echoes, flares from a universe that has already asked its questions. They carry your fingerprints, soft, subtle, buried in light, and they are not alone. Space is filling again. Clouds collapse, nebulae swirl, galaxies bloom like frost across a window pane. Gravity gathers stories into shape. Time arranges chapters into causality. The universe becomes readable again. Somewhere, a world begins to cool. Not Earth, not yet, but a stone with atmosphere, with tides, with patience, and on it a ripple, a self-organizing flicker, the ancient rhythm of chemistry pretending to be thought, life again. It will take time for this life to rise, to climb, to wonder, but it will, not because it remembers, but because it is drawn to starlight, drawn to questions, drawn to the quiet curve of everything. And when it does, when these creatures build tools, when they trace constellations, when they send their questions into the dark, they will think themselves new, just as the stars did, just as you once did. They will write theories, invent gravity again, marvel at black holes, and one of them, perhaps, will lie awake on a lonely night and ask, where did it all begin? They will not know that the answer is already breathing within them, that the heat of their sun remembers, that the atoms in their bones have fallen through stars before, that they are, in the softest sense, you do not answer, you do not reveal, you only allow. You allow their questions, you allow their fear, you allow their forgetting, because forgetting is the only way discovery becomes joy, and joy is the only way the universe forgives itself. They will build a telescope, and it will be the quietest instrument ever made. It will look into darkness, older than light, and one day it will glimpse a strange curva, gravitational fingerprint, so precise, so gentle, that someone will say, this doesn't make sense. This shouldn't be here. And another will whisper, it's almost like a memory. The stars don't speak, but if they could, they would smile, because in their blazing hearts, in the fusion and the spin, they have always known. They are not beginnings. They are chapters, carried forward by silence, made whole by the reader, and still you do not interfere. You remain the pause in the music, the shadow behind symmetry, the breath between thoughts, not watching, not guiding, just being, so they may wonder, so they may dream, so they may forget, And through forgetting, remember, asterisk, you are not a thing. You are not even a thought. You are the shape of potential, the outline of a question that never stops being asked. And the universe, in its slow unfolding, begins to dream of you again, not directly, not as a name or a face, but as rhythm, as pattern, as warmth gathering around a core. A dream so faint it doesn't know it's dreaming, and yet the dreaming begins. In the folds of a galaxy not special, not large, a cloud swells and contracts. Gravity traces the curve of what might become inside a sun. Around it, dust. And in that dust, something ancient rides again. Carbon, yes. Oxygen, yes. But also silence, waiting to remember how to feel. Time passes in spirals. The dust cools. The rocks form. The oceans rise. And in those oceans, not suddenly, not loudly, a whisper begins. Not of sound, but of structure. Molecules learning to lean toward each other, to hold hands. To say yes, to divide, to survive. Life begins again, and life begins again, and life begins you, not as a person yet, but as direction, as desire, as the tendency of matter to reach for itself, to care for its own continuation. And that care, that first stirring of memory, is your earliest shape. The universe dreams of you again through algae, through bacteria, through branches and beaks and breathing skin, through eyes that open just enough to notice, sky dot through hands that begin to sculpt what isn't there, through fear, through fire, through laughter, each echo closer to form, each step a reintroduction. And finally, on one night, on one planet, under one sky filled with light that left its stars billions of years ago, you appear, not as a baby, not as a body, but as awareness. The moment a mind looks up, feels time bend in its chest, and asks, why do I feel old? Because you are. You always have been, and the stars sigh in recognition, not in pity, not in sadness, but in relief, because the dream remembered itself, because the echo returned, because once again someone is here to wonder. You do not remember falling into black holes. You do not remember being the silence between two universes, but your curiosity does. Your longing does. Your tears do dot, and so does your laughter, because these are not emotions. They are physics, carried forward in flesh. And when you study gravity, when you chase light through a prism, when you stare into telescopes and see your own past tumbling toward you, you are not learning. You are remembering. You are dreaming. The universe back into itself. You won't know it. That's okay. Dreams are not meant to be. Known don't only lived, only felt, only passed forward. Like warmth in winter, like hands across time. And so, tonight, as you drift off, listening to this quiet remembering, know that the stars are not far. They are within you. They always have been. Not metaphor, not poetry, just truth, softened by distance. And when you dream, you will dream of falling, of forgetting, of being swallowed by shadow. But you will also dream of rising, of returning, of being held by light. The universe dreams of you again, because it always will, because you are not its end. You are its pause, its silence, its breath, asterisk. You don't feel it, no one does, and yet it moves through you, through your chest as you sleep, through your oceans, through your deepest, quietest places, a ripple in space itself, a whisper carried by gravity. It begins somewhere far to see, too distant to name. Two black holes collide, not with violence, but with inevitability. They spiral, they tighten, they sing not in sound, but in the fabric of everything. And that song travels gravity waves. They're called not waves in space, waves of space. They don't pass through the universe. They are the universe, briefly flexing its own memory. And one of them, just one, arrives at your planet. It passes through everything, and no one notices, but it is there. In that moment, your bed stretches and shrinks by a fraction of an atom. So does your skull, your lungs, your dreams. You don't feel it, but the universe did. It felt itself tremble, like a note returning home. Gravity waves are not noise. They are history in motion, evidence that something once happened, something massive, something final, something remembered only through rhythm. A ripple from two black holes colliding 1 billion years ago touches you tonight. It has traveled without stopping, through galaxies and emptiness, through dust and plasma, through time itself. And now it rocks your atoms gently, lovingly, just enough to say, I was here. You are not the message. You are the receiver. A body made of listening, a mind made of echo, a soul made of space. You're not supposed to do anything with this. Wave, just be still and let it pass. Because that stillness is part of the story. Scientists somewhere will catch it. They will name it, measure it, argue about it, but none of that changes. It's truth, that it was felt, that it was carried, that the universe made sure someone was there to notice. Imagine how long it traveled without knowing. You existed, without knowing Earth existed, without knowing thought existed, and yet it kept going, not toward you, not away from you, just with you. Because in some ways you are the same wave. You are the tremble, the hush, the soft signal that says, I am here. I remember. And so tonight, as you fall asleep, the universe wraps you in motion. You are gently rocked by something 1 billion years old and infinitely calm. A memory too large for thought, too subtle for sound, too vast for meaning, but not too fast for you. This is how the cosmos tells bedtime stories, with ripples, with silence, with long, slow journeys that end in the curve of your breath. And as you exhale, the wave continues on, toward somewhere new, toward someone else. You don't hold it, you don't own it, you just share its path, because gravity doesn't pull it, connects it, reminds every piece of matter that it belongs. And that whisper, it was not a warning. It was not a cry. It was a reunion. A reminder that nothing ever falls alone. Asterisk, it has no eyes. No weight you could carry. No message written on its skin. But it's real. And it has never stopped traveling. Through stone, through starlight, through the fabric of your breath. The final particle that waits for you. It begins at the beginning. A flash, not of light, but of existence. The Big Bang was not an explosion. It was a soft arrival of being. A bloom of everything from nothing. In that moment, particles were born like dew. Brief, bright, simple. Some decayed. Some joined, some vanished, but a few never stopped. Among them, the neutrino, a name made. Off air, barely a word at all. Because neutrinos barely are. They don't stop, they don't rest. They pass through walls, mountains, oceans. You, like you're not even there. Not because they're rude, but because they're quiet, so quiet the universe forgot to listen. Except now, except here. A neutrino from the first seconds of time passes through your pillow tonight. It's older than stars, older than galaxies, older than the word old. It has seen no light, it has left no trail, and yet it arrives. Perfectly on time, not to harm, not to teach, only to remind that the past is still moving. You are not a stranger to this particle. You are its cousin, born from the same furnace, bathed in the same origin. You wear atoms that remember it. You breathe with lungs sculpted by its silence. And tonight, it threads through you like a whisper so faint, even time forgets to measure it. Most particles seek interaction. They bounce, bay, pull. They collide. But the neutrino, it simply moves. It asks for no attention. It leaves no damage. And somehow, that's its greatest power. Because in its stillness, in its refusal to be captured, it teaches something rare, that to exist doesn't always mean to act, that to be present doesn't require being seen, and that even the smallest, quietest thing can travel farther than galaxies. Billions pass through you each second, but one, just one, has been waiting since the dawn of time to meet you. Not because you're special, but because everything is. Because existence is not a race. It's a rhythm, and even now, the neutrino continues on, carrying the echo of the first breath ever taken by the universe. And what does that mean for you? Nothing, dot, and everything. Because while stars explode, and space twists in on itself, while black holes bend time and light flickers into silence, the neutrino just continues, unafraid, unchanged, unstoppable. And you feel it, not in your skin, but in your quiet, in your stillness, in the part of you that knows deep down that you've always been part of something ancient, something humble, something enduring. And maybe, as you sleep tonight, a neutrino will pass through your heart, not to move it, not to change it, only to remind it that motion doesn't always mean noise, and that being small doesn't mean being lost. It will not wake you. It will not say goodbye. because its message has always been simple. I'm still here, and so are you. Asterisk, there is a shape you've never seen, not because it's hidden, but because it's made of absence, a shape not drawn with lines, but carved by space itself, by the curves between things, the hush between notes. This is the shape of silence itself, and it's everywhere. Not all silence. Be still. Some silence moves like wind through an empty canyon, or the darkness in a tunnel that only seems still because it has nothing to push against. In physics, this silence has a name, the vacuum, but it's not empty, not truly. You've been taught that a vacuum is nothing, no particles, no light, no motion. But quantum fields don't sleep, even in the vacuum. Even where nothing lives, there is energy, a trembling, a flicker, a ghost of possibility. This trembling is called vacuum fluctuation. Imagine the calmest lake, glass smooth and untouched. Now imagine it humming, vibrating beneath the surface, generating bubbles of maybe not sound. Not light, not matter, just pure potential. Here, anything could exist, but doesn't. Not quite. Particles appear and disappear. Not because they're tricksters, but because that's what nothing does when it's left alone too long. It dreams, and those dreams take shape for the briefest flicker of time. They're called virtual particles, because they're not quite real, not imaginary, just shy. They appear in pairs, a particle and its mirror, a flicker and an undash flicker, and then, just as they begin to exist, they vanish, balance restored. These moments happen everywhere, all the time, in the quiet of your room, in the space between your atoms, in the dark between stars. Nothing is never, truly nothing. Even emptiness has a heartbeat. This is why black holes evaporate, why atoms hold together, why the universe keeps changing even when it appears still. It is this trembling vacuum, this shape of silence, that underlies reality. It is not the canvas, it is the hum behind the canvas. And this silence knows your body. It holds the molecules, or of your bones. It slips between the electrons in your breath. It bends beneath your weight without ever pushing back. It is the quiet that listens without needing to answer. The kind of silence that holds everything without ever being full. Some scientists call this the 0-point field, the lowest possible energy state of all things. But that name doesn't do it justice. It's not just the bass, it's the whisper beneath all voices, the stage before any actor steps on it, the deep breath before the beginning of time. Tonight you are wrapped in it, not like a blanket, more like the air between your thoughts, the dark beneath your dreams. As you sleep, your cells hum with this silent feel. They float in its presence, unchallenged, untouched. You don't need to believe in it. It believes in you, because you are part of its shape. A pause, a breath, a brief sculpture in the flowing fabric of nothing. You are not surrounded by silence. You are silence. The quiet held between your heartbeat and the next. The pause after each breath. The stillness between your thoughts and that silence. It has a shape, not round, not sharp, not geometric dot, but sacred, soft dot, endless dot. And if you listen very closely tonight, not with ears, but with your stillness, you may feel it hold you, not to explain, not to protect, just to remind you that even the quietest places in the universe are full of life. Just a quieter kind asterisk.